welcome back. It took me far too long to figure out those problems. I'm so sorry, and I had the stream open for longer than I realised. Absolutely calamitous return. Now, please, again, let me. I say this every other stream. I think we've got it now. I think for the first time in genuinely 20 minutes, it's working as it should. There's no echo. If I'm a bit too loud, let me know, because I think I'm a bit hot on the levels. But welcome. We'll pretend that didn't happen. Welcome to the very professional stream here at Phil's Corner. I talked a lot, and again, shout out to Eric, one of our regulars, who had you not messaged Eric, I could have been going for much longer. So terrible start, but we will persevere. We will keep going in true professional fashion. We will probably we've lost a bit of momentum, but I'll pretend as if we just started a little bit later than planned. But welcome back to Phil's Corner. Welcome back to the Hot Wall. Once again, we'll keep the intro very short because you do need to get into the shirts. But this is just to say that we're back after a bit of a break. We'll get through as many shirts as we can today, starting with the Roma home shirt. This is hot off the press, and in many ways this is a shirt which has commanded a lot of attention. Is it worthy of the hype? That's the question we're going to be answering today. Is it actually that good, or is it just pretty average? We'll talk about that first and get to some other shirts. Also, guys, some of you will know we're on Whatnot tonight. We've been doing a few Whatnot streams, testing out, seeing what the platform's like. That is tonight at 8 o'clock. All details are over on my Twitter. Let's get to the Hot Wall. As we did say earlier on, we don't. That's not working now. Interesting. There we go. The button works. As I was saying before on mute, we've had a new edition, the Zwigan Kanazawa shirt that has been added in the meantime since the last stream, off stream if you will. But of course, it is one of just a few shirts in. Thank you, Eric. We're back again. It was one of the more confusing issues and I'm sure you guys have had this as well. Nothing on my screen was showing as not working, and then as I pointed out, there was no output despite showing that there was sound. Gotta love technology. You wouldn't think I'd done a music technology degree, given the problems today, but there we go. Not many shirts in the Volcano Tick. Will the Roma shirt join it? Oh, we don't want to do that. We want to go over to here. Let's come to this shirt, guys. Now, of course, this is one of the most talked about partnerships in the game, in the shirt game this season. Adidas coming back to Roma, having been with them for a very nice period. When Adidas were very strong in the early 90s. Of course, coming back to them, there's a lot of hype. Does this shirt justify the hype? Is it actually good, or are we just getting carried away? I would say this shirt, we have to remember a couple of things. It is the first shirt of the new deal, and whilst this has been, in the books for a little while, we've seen leaks of this for a while, typically first shirts of a new deal, even of a union like this one, are a bit more reserved, a bit more conservative than most. This isn't a hard and fast rule, but often it is the case. And Adidas, of course, are a little bit more safe quite often as a brand. It's a shame we don't get to see their top spec, the heat ready spec in this example, and it doesn't appear to be there, but I do really like some of the choices here. Firstly, the shade of the secondary colour, a little bit more on the kind of orangey end of the gold spectrum, as with many of the good Adidas Roma shirts from part 1, so that's nice. Roma, again, obviously this is their typical colours, but one area of differentiation is in the shades of colour, and I do think that secondary colour, it depends on what pictures you're looking at, but to me, again, it's not as bright, although having said that, it does look a bit more yellow on this picture here, but certainly in this picture, I think the balance of colour, or the choice of colour, is really nice. Hey Matthew, First time in the chat. Great to have you. Thanks for taking the courage to stick a message in, Matthew. Great to have you along, mate. Great to see the hot ball back. Yeah, Matthew, we are going to be, well, I've said this before, but I'll just confirm on stream, and I'm going to be doing an announcement video either tomorrow or Monday. Phil's Corner, we're going to be going back to weekly Phil's Corner episodes in the classic style, Q&A, topics, kind of magazine style show every week on top of weekly streams, either eBay or the hot ball. So basically I'm going to recommit to YouTube because it has been basically on the back burner for a little while. I've been busy with other projects, but I'm ready to recommit. We're going to have a new shirt for Patreon, which is my new Icarus Cup shirt. It's a good time to be back, so thank you, Matthew, appreciate that. Yeah, so colours are good. Obviously the Lupetto, it's a quick win, but it's an easy win, and it does look good. I really do think as well, in combination with the new adidas logo, it is nice. Many comparisons made to the Spain shirt. Whilst I do see that and I can understand the collar style, given that it is the same, I would argue that there's at least a bit of differentiation having the cuff design, which the Spain shirt doesn't have. And also, I don't think I do like the overall look, even though it is quite Spain for sure. Like the back net detail, simple but very nice. I would say this shirt, guys, I think it is in the Flames tier, but not by much. As much as I do like it, and I think it, as I tweeted earlier this morning, I don't think we want to overthink this one. This is, I would say, a really strong home shirt, a good way to open their second account, Adidas that is, in Rome with Roma. Obviously, I think this is one more of a partnership to look to longer term, but I really do think it compares well. Something like the Rangers shirt. I actually quite like the Rangers shirt this year. I think the Rome one, it's somewhere in this region. I'm going to stick it here. And as we're doing this year on the Hot Wall, we're also kind of tracking the brand's performance as a whole. So Adidas, we'll bump them up a couple of notches. That is the Roma home. I think the big takeaway here, guys, is it's the first one of a new deal. Let's wait and see. Let's see what else Adidas brings to the table. Given the colours, given the history, both of the team and in shirts, I think this one has all the potential. Will Adidas give it the full attention that Roma deserve? We will wait and see. But I'm positive about this kit. I do think it's really nice. It's not, to get into this top tier, we need a bit more creativity, a bit more of a daring approach, or just maybe the details go up even more. Plainer shirts can certainly get into this tier, but they need more of an attention to detail. Seeing it in heat ready would help as well. But overall, really positive. Andrew says it's nice, a bit underwhelming. The away will be one off-white, it seems. Yeah, excited to see the away. I can't remember what the third is as well. I feel like I saw a leak of that at some point. But that's the Roma shirt. It's good. I like it a lot. Guys, just says, well, please let me know if I'm a bit too loud. I've tried to crank up my volume after previous streams, but if it is too loud, let me know. If I'm crackling, if the sound is distorting, if I'm getting too excited. Right, interesting couple of kits for Holstein Kiel here. Puma, I think in general I've been a bit more positive about them across the board, and this is interesting. I don't love these. They feel a bit cheap and tacky, but there are some interesting decisions. Sound is good, volume is perfect. Great, thank you guys, thank you Matthew. That's good, because again, we've had some problems in previous streams. Oh man, it's hard. Honestly, I full respect to people who stream like full time, and maybe they're on Twitch or whatever it is, Kick now and stuff. But man, it's a lot. I struggle doing a couple of hours every week, let alone full time. Lots to think about, lots to set up. But anyway, we're getting to the Holstein Kiel kits. I think one thing, colour like red and blue in these kind of shades. I don't know. It's a hard combo for me to really fall in love with. The pattern's fine. I don't remember seeing this from another Puma team, so it might even be bespoke. But it feels a bit kind of like generic, a bit of kind of team wear pattern. Really interesting asymmetric collar. Something kind of New Balance kits have been doing a lot this year. Not too sure about the design of this one. Again, that collar is the most interesting feature for me. I guess the colour as well, being slightly lighter blue, is surprising. But these ones, I think, low end of the candle tier is probably where I'm landing for certainly for the home. I think the away, possibly, despite the novelty of the asymmetric collar, possibly even lower. I don't love this as a combo of kits, but I will say that Puma, again, I'm feeling pretty good about them as a whole. There's a lot of good stuff that we've seen as with last year, in the lower leagues, particularly in England. I've enjoyed quite a few of the shirts. Honestly, I think this feels about right here. Dare I say it, maybe even Ice Cube tier. We'll go here right on the border. And if we come to the away, despite the novelty of this collar, and again, we've seen a few New Balance kits do similar things, I don't think it's a great shirt. So interesting. Obviously, and we say this a lot, if this pattern is bespoke, if this design, despite looking a bit cheap to me, if it is bespoke, that's always a good thing. That's never a bad thing to have a bespoke pattern. Or if it's shared with just a select group of teams, I don't mind that. I don't mind it when you have a design which is kind of twinned with another club's shirt. That honestly doesn't take too much away from me. But if it is rolled out across multiple teams, we're talking like 6+ teams, then it does lose points. I have to say though, despite the novelty factor of the collar, I would put it in this kind of region. Not loving this. Not a great combo. And of course, that is a Puma set, which we will drag Puma down a little bit there into the pack. Umbro, who will probably be rising, if not today, in future weeks, because they are doing a lot of good work. Rightfully being singled out as risers this year. It's funny, isn't it? And I don't know if you guys are kind of track this yourselves. I think one thing I've noticed more since when I started talking about shirts, whenever it was it 2017, 2016, whatever it was, more seriously, being conscious of how brands are performing, and I see more and more people talking about that, which I think is really cool. It's cool to kind of say, okay, this is a good year for Macron, or maybe it's a bit of a down year for Nike, etc. I think that conversation is really interesting to me, and I think you can often track those things, at least if you're obsessed with it as I am. Now, this is funny. A very similar aesthetic here with the Sporting Crystal away shirt to the Holstein Kiel home. Looking at this kit, very vibrant, kind of lemony yellow with a nice soft baby blue. I don't mind this one. Again, it is a similar aesthetic to the Puma one. I probably would take this one slightly above the Holstein Kiel shirt we just looked at. And despite the very large sponsors, they are at least, kind of matching, or at least not taking away too much. I think it's interesting having the navy or more kind of darker blue in conjunction with the light blue of the crest, and I think there's just one too many shades of blue. See here how and this is probably just an issue of only having a certain number of colours from a catalogue to choose from. See how the collar here just slightly mismatched with the crest, and then of course they're different to the applications here. So I think if we either match the collar with the crest, or the crest with the collar, or the applications of one of these, I think, and maybe it's just more of a material thing, this being what looks like possibly a plastic compared to the fabric. But anyway, you see my point. There's one too many shades of blue, or at least I think if you're going to do this, maybe have some of the little flecks or the lines here in the darker blue. I'm being very picky. I would take this. I think we're looking at something in the mid candle, feels good. A bit higher than those Kiel shirts we looked at. And she says the yellow stars on a yellow base is an odd one. That is true, actually. I actually missed the stars there. That's a very, very good point. Completely hidden. Yeah, honestly, it's not a big negative, but it is an odd decision for sure. Matthew, on the topic of brands, saying, I think Macron and Kappa are some of the best in the moment. I also like some of the new Volt shirts from Brazil. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Volt, Matthew. We talked about them in one of the first Hot Wall streams this year, and I was saying how I think they've really stepped it up from previous years. And sure, they're only in the candle tier, but actually, beating out the likes of, we've not had many rare shirts at all, so they probably will come up. But Reebok, Under Armour, Castor. Although again, Castor actually, I think, have surprised me with some of the shirts I've actually liked a bit this year. So I think, again, don't take this too much, but yeah, I would agree with Volt. They've improved things for sure compared to last year, and they have a relatively small footprint, largely operating in Brazil. But there is some good stuff there, definitely. Macron always good as well. I think Macron, again, they're really, given the number of teams they work with, they're really, really consistent. And given, they've got a huge portfolio, and actually I would say they do a good job with that portfolio. So that's the Sporty Crystal. Sure, I don't mind that one at all. Now we come to Mallorca. Real Club Deportivo Mallorca. Very, very boring shirt. I mean, it is just pretty much, I don't know if this is exactly off the shelf, but it has very little. I mean, there's a token gesture of a detail there. That's nothing too much to say. At least they've placed the sponsor reasonably, and they've sized it reasonably, about as well as they could. Obviously, this template, we're kind of all sick of it by now. If you weren't already sick of it last year, we are now. And I would say this one is, it's an Ice Cube tier. Probably a high Ice Cube, because again, at least they've placed and sized the sponsor appropriately. That's the best I can say about this one. It's funny, I don't know if we'll come onto it. I can't remember if Football Shirt Culture have uploaded the Freiburg kits. I'm a big fan of Freiburg, and I really, part of the reason I fell in love with the team was their kits with Hummel. Now they're with a Nike teamwear contract, and it is really sad to see the drop off is huge from where they were to what they have now. And this is a similar thing, Mallorca, they're not a small team by any means, in fact, are they even in? So they're in La Liga. I must admit, I don't follow Spanish football very well. So they're in. Well, let's have a quick look. Can we actually? I just want a table, don't I? Oh man, this is a really common. Usually Google would bring it up. Anyway, so if for a top tier team, yeah, very, very underwhelming. What might help this one is potentially this combo of colours with the red and the lighter red could be bespoke to the team, but it doesn't take away from a very average design. Marseille, though, now it's interesting. Marseille and Puma, I wouldn't say they've set the world on fire since being together. Let's see if that changes this year. I do like this shade of blue, and I don't mind this for Marseille. The pattern does look quite basic. I feel like this shirt is... It bugs me that he's wearing Nike shorts, but anyway. I'm guessing this is like a JD Sports model or something. Anyway, yeah, I like the shade of blue, honestly, and I think that is a good shade, and I appreciate that all the details are in white. So the colours, excellent, but it's very underwhelming in terms of a design. It's got the contour thing, sure, but it's very minimal. I don't think this one has enough of a draw. Again, I do really like that shade of blue, honestly. And I don't mind Marseille having a darker blue kit with a light blue or white away. Obviously, white makes more sense. It's more of a contrast, but as in for the home shirt, if you're going to have a blue away shirt. But anyway, I just think I can't put this any higher than the counter tier. I'd probably put it in the middle of the counter tier simply because I do like the colours, but and I think sometimes if you get, again, plainer shirts, and I would consider this a plain shirt despite the contours. Obviously the plain back is a negative as well, we should add. I don't mind that detail there. And you need things like those details to really excel. That one is, it's fine. It has a kind of a bit of a fashion look to it, but I just don't think it looks honestly quite boring, quite basic. Nice colours, underwhelming design. We'll stick it here, and of course this is a Puma shirt. I forgot to move Nike down as well. Actually, we had the Mallorca shirt there, so let's move Nike. Puma, similarly, a couple of notches down. Guys, as we continue, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe if you're new. It always helps grow the channel. Leaving a like as well does a lot. So if you are enjoying this stream, if you enjoy anything from today, make sure you leave a like, make sure you subscribe. Lots more stuff to come, guys. Phil's Corner will be back in it to its former glory. It's been quite quiet around here, but that is going to change. Now, here's the Marseille home shirt. Very, very subtle pattern. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's funny how, you know, in the promo shots, they've definitely ramped up the contrast there. It's fine. It's very basic, but I do like that. I would like it more if the colour of the sponsor matched the lovely blue of the Marseille shirt there. Complimentary back neck detail, which is nice. Honestly, the whole aesthetic of this is good. It's nothing revolutionary. Matching collar and cuffs is strong, and I don't mind. You don't need a crazy pattern to succeed. I do think that as a subliminal base pattern is okay, but it is largely that. It is largely okay. I think I would certainly take it over the away, and I think we are looking at something higher up in the counter tier, quite high in the counter tier. So honestly, again, I think Puma Marseille, unless I'm forgetting the shirt, haven't largely excited me too much. This is, from memory, this is an upgrade on last year's home, but again, it was largely quite forgettable, so maybe I'm misremembering. That's the home shirt for Marseille. It feels pretty good in this spot. Here, I like it there. And that's Puma. Yeah, we'll leave Puma there. Andrew, the kits are boring, but the reveal they did on a 5-star picture with the giant mural covered in sand was pretty neat. Oh, I didn't see that, Andrew. Yeah, sometimes a kit reveal or a campaign on a kit is so much better than the actual shirt. Right. I want to rattle through as many pages as we can. It's so hard though. Honestly, I chose the wrong time of the year to slow down and go on holiday. But anyway, we continue. I just need to do more off stream basically. But Forest Green Rovers, who I believe that they've moved to Roma, haven't they? Because they were with Player Layer, who were a brand who did a lot of good stuff and are still doing good stuff with the likes of Vermont Green in the States. Very interesting to see that they've essentially continued the design language or the overall kind of language of previous Forest Green Rovers kits, in that you kind of got like a kind of zebra style, and then they've gone for the lightning bolts here. It's fine. Honestly, I think the most interesting aspect of this to me is that this is, again, a change of manufacture, but a kind of continuation of what they were doing before, which shows how sometimes clubs, despite move manufacturers, really want to maintain their identity, their kind of their kit language, if you like. And this is an example of that. A number have done a good job here. I appreciate, again, the place. Don't overlook things like the placement of the logo, the way that is nicely spaced, around the bolts, and even the crest there. Like it all looks good. The sponsor fits really well. I don't know who Ecotricity are, but I do appreciate that it does look a lot like electricity. Maybe they are related to Eco Energy or whatever. But there's a fun link there. But honestly, this is good. I do actually quite like this. And again, I think this actually speaks a lot to how Forest Green Rovers very much have an identity when it comes to kits. And they've lent into that. Ian, I'm not a fan of the club, but in terms of branding and presenting identity, FGL produce good shirts. Absolutely. I think they... Well, it's funny. It's no coincidence that with Arsenal's rumoured... is it the away or the third? The bright green and black shirt that Arsenal are getting next year. Probably the most commented response to that is, looks like Forest Green Rovers. And that actually says a lot when teams are comparing an Arsenal shirt to your shirt. They've made this not just the colour combo, but the kind of, again, zebra, or typically zebra kind of aesthetic, their own. I do actually really like this one. Honestly, I actually think I'd sneak this into the Flames tier. When I compare it to, yeah, I think something in here feels something in this kind of just nudging into the Flames tier. And I think Umbro again, they've done a lot better actually this year. Umbro have, I would say, stepped it up this season after a couple of relatively down years by their high standards. So we'll bump up Umbro there, and again, hopefully we'll get to more of them today. If we don't, a future stream we'll talk about them more. That is Forest Green Rovers. Grimsby Town. We come to, I believe this is going to be the home and away. Or is the red the goalkeeper? Yeah, it's just, so the home being the black and white, of course, and the red being the away. Start with the home. I don't really like this style of neckline. It's not the worst, but it's not one I would usually gravitate towards. And indeed, the collar as a whole looks a little bit kind of, it's not my favourite style. You know, the overall silhouette, overall look of the shirt is nice, and it's got the kind of big, the big H, given the sponsor placement there. Kind of a bit clunky the way, again, the sponsor base here is kind of hurting this one quite a bit. It does look like a kind of subpar Newcastle shirt when over the years when Newcastle have had a few issues with their sponsors. The cuffs are fine, you know, there's something there. I don't mind the thickness of the stripes, but I do think, again, with a better sponsor, and I don't really like this panel here that's been blocked out. You'd rather see the stripes, although at least the stripes are on the back. You know, that is important. I think this has a mid-candle tier feel to me. It would be lower were it not for the fact we have stripes on the back, albeit that panel isn't to my liking, but I'm being picky. Yeah, again, the sponsor, just the green of it there, it's not the worst you've seen, but it's it does take away from the look of the shirt for sure. But Macron, I'm largely pretty high on them, and I don't think this sours my feelings towards them too much. Retro Ball, the new Roma, is fire. I would agree. Now we put it here. I wasn't going to put it in the Volcano tier, and if anyone who's missed it, go and check out the start of the stream. We talked about that, but I do like the Roma shirt. I think it's just good. And I think, you know, for people who do think it's a bit too boring, I think you have to consider a number of factors. It is year one of a deal, and also, you know, there's going to be more to come. I actually think the little decisions they made, such as the shades of the colours and the background detail, they are good decisions which do keep it from being just average in my eyes. The away, much more simple, and I prefer this kind of no-nonsense collar compared to this style. That's just a personal preference, but I do like that. The kind of fishnet aesthetic makes a lot of sense for Grimsby. I think they could have done more with it, but you know, I like that. And obviously now the sponsor fits in much better being in one colour. So this is a far superior shirt to the home for me. I actually think this is quite nice. Probably still in the Canner tier, but much higher in the Canner tier. This is what we like to see. Again, what I believe is bespoke, and this is the kind of thing that Macron do really well, and actually Puma do well in the lower leagues, is give bespoke treatment to their teams. And as opposed to typical Adidas or Nike shirts, you know, I mean, this is, you know, I prefer it to the Marseille shirt. That's how much I like it. Something around here feels good. I'm not going to get carried away, but I think it does compare really well to what we've seen. So that's Macron again. And you know, we'll keep them here. We don't need to move them around on the brand tier watch. But I like this one quite a lot, more than the home. But as a combo, not bad at all. Now we come to Brentford. This is a show which, of course, the club will have for 2 years. I say, of course, because I've done this a couple of years now. I'm surprised more clubs haven't adopted this approach. I thought this season we would see a few more clubs come out in similar fashion to Brentford regarding keeping a home shirt or an away shirt for 2 years. There hasn't been as much take up as I expected on that front. Although what's quite funny about this shirt is that actually it's not really that great. And in this example, it's one where you'd if you're a Brentford fan or a fan of shirts as we are here. You'd rather they did change it next year. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are far worse shirts, and it's hard with striped shirts. I think gradients, they rarely float my boat, and particularly on striped kits. I think just the paneling of this one, or the kind of blocking of the black there, feels quite dated to me. The horrible sponsor in terms of size and just style, it looks really bad. You know, it's a really bad look. The sleeve sponsor's even worse. So a couple of bad sponsors hurt this one. I do like the B on the back, although it is just the crest B. So like, again, even though that's quite a nice detail in and of itself, it is just the same B from the crest. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff which, like, honestly, when I look at this, I think without the gradient and with better sponsors, I think there's an okay base. It would be very boring, but they have got stripes on the back. You know, we have to take some positives here. But given the terrible sponsors, given the gradient, which I think looks quite ugly in all honesty, and you know, you look at it with the shorts, you can't really see it in that picture, but that you know, helps to understand the gradient if they're wearing black shorts. But just not really a fan of this one, and I don't know if I'd put it. I think it might even have to be in the Ice Cube tier. And again, the sponsors, we don't want to spend too much time judging the sponsors and the aesthetics. You know what, I will put it in the counter tier for one reason, and it was something which I believe it was Kit Geek on Twitter pointed out, that they've actually blocked out the Umbro in white, and that's quite an old school thing which Umbro used to do in their kits, as in, you know, filled in the gaps between the diamonds, and that's a nice thing which I don't believe they use or they have been doing up until this year. It's an old thing they used to do, but it looks nice, and it does actually, to be honest, that detail alone is going to save it from being in the bottom tier. Yeah, so we'll stick it there. I'm clutching at straws, but you know, that's what we do here. I'm very picky. I'm happy to clutch at the odd straw now and then. Umbro again will rise this year, but we will bump them down slightly. That is the Brentford home shirt, which Brentford fans can look forward to for 2 years. Thanks for your comments, guys. Keep them coming. If I don't answer straight away, I'll get back to them. We got Retro Wilson and Panathinaikos are back with Adidas. What do you think of the new Panathinaikos shirt? I don't think I've seen it, Retro Wilson. So hopefully, if it's not on here today, we'll cover it in the next stream, hopefully. Or I'll have to go and check it out on Twitter. Oh, sorry, when the stream ends. Ian says, tempted to get a Brentford shirt with his sponsor, and I haven't totally nailed it just for the story it tells. Yeah, many people rightly talking about that, and I think that is a story. And I know, I'm sure you're joking, Ian, but I do actually think that's quite interesting. Getting a shirt, buying a shirt, maybe with a name set, in part to tell a story. I actually am a big fan of that. I've bought shirts myself, maybe not to that extent, but certainly shirts which I think have an interesting, sometimes notorious story. I do think there's something to that. And just in the badge number, it looked like they've been forced out wide by the place of the stripes. They do a bit, don't they? They do look a tad wide. Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. You'd bring them in a little bit, wouldn't you, if you could? Now, let's come to a much better shirt, the Bradford shirt. I talked about this just the other day, saying it was the quintessential looks like a rugby shirt. And it does look like a rugby shirt. Somewhat ironically, my local rugby league team, or the team local to me, the Huddersfield Giants, do play in these colours. Huddersfield being kind of somewhat rivals, depending on who you ask. At university, there are rivals for sport. Bradford, that is, University of Bradford. But of course, these are Bradford City's home colours. They always have been. So that is, you know, nothing special there. What I really appreciate is this placket, this neckline, the collar. I've often been really down on one button collars or these kind of loose flappy collars, but to get a few buttons in there, I think it's far superior. And then if we talk about, of course, the collar itself, yes, it looks like a rugby shirt, but boy, does it look effective. I do actually think this is really strong. Possibly a little bit, you know, the cuffs, I almost want to say it's a bit too much, having the triangle there, but when you see it with the Macron logo, it kind of mirrors it. There's a lot to take in, but I mean, the overall effect is nice, and I do think, again, if I'm being really picky, and I'm being very picky, is that actually centered? Oh, I guess it is centered, actually. I was going to say that the placement of the sponsor isn't quite what it could be, but I'm finding reasons to criticize the plain back. Sure, that's one thing, but at least having it on the sleeves, it's still not a bad look. I do think, guys, this is excellent, and I actually think this is close to Volcano territory. I really do. Some clubs, they're just blessed with good colours. Sorry. And I mean, I'm sure some of you don't like these colours. I personally really like this combo that Bradford have. It's not overused. It's relatively interesting in despite all the hundreds and hundreds of teams in world football, thousands of teams, there aren't too many that really rock the colours here as Bradford do. And I actually, when I think about it here, I'm going to put it right in the top end of the Flames tier. This is what we're talking about for Macron. Of course, this isn't reinventing any wheels. Reinvented the wheel. Any wheels, either way. Sorry, I had to check myself there. But I love it. I really think it compares well. Maybe I'm just looking here. No, I think it compares well to the Galaxy shirt. I'd take it around there. So there we go. Much more like it from Macron, and of course, we will have to move them up. Let's bump them up here, and love it. Yes, it looks like a rugby shirt. That is no bad thing. Thanks for your comments, guys. Keep them coming. Welcome. I'm seeing a little bump in numbers here. Anyone who's new, you're joining, welcome to the stream. Welcome to Phil's Corner. Make sure you subscribe. Leave a like if you enjoy this. And lots more to come, guys, on the channel. I really appreciate your support. Oh, dear. Just whacking my speaker there. Really appreciate your support. Thank you for tuning in on this Thursday afternoon. I just love hanging out and chugging that kits. It is a good thing. When we got a bit of action there in the chat, so appreciate it. Matthew saying, Macron did some great work at Bradford. I picked up their third shirt from last season. That was an amazing shirt. Yes. Now, I'm trying to remember which one that was. Off the top of my head, I do remember them being very good, but I honestly would have to double check that. But that is really sweet. Sharpener shows the bonus, a bit like the PSG NBA style ones. Yeah. Sorry, on the shorts. Sorry. That is worth a note. That is very similar. I'm wearing those PSG shorts right now. I won't show you, but you can trust me on that one. Zooming in on that guy's inner thigh, but we'll move on swiftly. Great set of shorts indeed. Now, QPR. This is, of course, a revival of the very popular QPR away look, which has been colloquially known as the Dennis the Menace shirt. Really good shirt. I mean, Herrera and QPR have actually been a really good combo. This is brilliant. All the things you like to see in terms of attention to detail. The consistent colour, like we talked about, inconsistent tertiary colours or secondary colours. This is excellent. The gold throughout the applications, the mirrored collar and cuffs. It is a textbook shirt. The only thing I'd want to check is whether the hoops go on the back. And I don't know if they do, but I think this is absolutely brilliant. Don't know who the sponsor are, but that's fine. It does tie in well. This is just easily a Flames t-shirt. I think I'd probably take it a bit below the Bradford shirt, but not by much. I mean, I think this look, it's one of those which is just very strong. Again, hooped kits, that's usually pretty good, but hooped kits done like this, you're looking at honestly just excellent. And if QPR did this every year, you'd get bored of it. But they do this quite a lot, of course. But very happy to see this combo. I'm not sure if the gold, I can't remember the gold being used. I'm sure there would have been. I'd have to go and check. But it feels great. Let's stick it just below. I think something like here feels like a reasonable spot. Great stuff. And Araya, it's funny, there's not many Araya kits on here actually. But we will bump them up. I just want to check. Yeah, no, they're not. They are just down here. I'm surprised they're down here actually. I think because I think it was only the wall sockets. So I'm going to stick them here because from memory it is literally just them. Sorry, I'm talking out loud here. But we'll bump them up, and they could obviously, yeah, we'll stay there. It's good stuff, guys. This is a really good QPR. Ian says the QPR nice indeed. The gold over the stripes works really well. I think it does. I think it looks great. Really happy with that as a away kit. Looking at the home now. I think a lot of red, obviously. And this again is something QPR have done before. Similar kind of formula to the away in terms of the mirrored collar. I think unlike the away, which doesn't have the kind of pinstripes on the stripes, you have that now with the red. And I don't mind that, honestly. It gives it something a bit different to the away in terms of the look. The all red crest is actually, I don't recall that being a typical feature of QPR shirts. I may be wrong. But at least it's consistent. I think that's the thing. Like, I don't mind. I don't mind that, given that it does tie in. I think this one, it's less exciting than the Dennis Simmons shirt, but it's equally well crafted, well considered, and again, thankfully not ruined by a horrible, clunky sponsor which clashes with the aesthetics. So, I think I put this in the high candle tier. And very much, the high candle tier, close to the Flames tier. But I do think this is a great set of kits. And QPR and Araya, QPR are sneakily one of Araya's best teams. Araya, who have a lot of clubs in world football, and again, we'll move them up. Great stuff. Really, really like this. Even more so the away, but the home is also good. Ian, summarising my thoughts, saying it's a bit cleaner and less fussy. Absolutely. Andrew, as a home and away set, it's up there for me so far. I hadn't noticed the red badge before, though, which throws me a bit now, though. Yeah, it is a bit. Again, I'd have to double check. I don't recall that. I don't recall a QPR shirt having that feature. I would say at least in the one colour, the crest isn't too bad. I would say in Monaco. But I like it. But are you going to rank the Toronto third shirt? Now, typically we do stick to what's on football shirt culture, so I probably want to wait and see if we come on to that. We got Barnsley to come. That's going to be fun to talk about. But we will have a lot of backdating to do later in the year when it gets a bit quieter. Brock, I hope you fill in some of these gaps that we've had, because all being well, guys, we'll keep this going right up to Christmas, or give or take Christmas. Oxford, and Macron. Very, very simple approach, but well executed. You've got obviously quite a large sponsor, which at least ties in, and the pinstripe look is good. It's effective. I think what's interesting to me is if you look at the crest, of course, and I don't know if this is the usual. Am I right in saying that's the usual crest? I'm assuming it is. I don't know Oxford United well enough, but obviously there's a pinstripe look there as well. So I don't mind that. Continuing the story there. We talked about duplicated details with the Brentford shirt, and again you've got a crest element on the back. It's fine, but to me, that's always a little bit like generally speaking, I'm not as big of a fan of seeing a kind of duplicated. If you have the crest, the featured design element of the crest repeats on the back, it's fine, but it's a bit too easy for me. But honestly, placement of the crest and Macron logo is good between the pinstripes, so that's nice. This is good. I think this one has potential to go in the Flames tier, but I'll probably keep it in the candle tier, albeit we're on the border, I think, and it is a good shirt. Unexciting, but the pinstripe looks strong, and if you're going to go with a kind of a base look, you could do far worse than this. I think it tying in with the crest does actually think maybe I'm nudging into the Flames tier. I think it feels particularly at home. Again, given that little story, I don't know if that is any part of the thinking at all, but I'm going to stick it here. And that's another Matcon shirt, which we'll bump them up a couple of points. I like it. Broxton just got a 2016 Sweden shirt with Zlatan. Very nice. Nice time to pick up Zlatan shirts given his recent retirement. I don't remember the 2016 Sweden shirt off the top of my head. I'd have to look. Barnsley now. This set of kits caused a lot of bemusement, shall we say, on social media. A lot of people were quite mocking of the shirt, and understandably so, but at the same time, I think one interesting aspect, which was underreported, I would say, was the involvement of Colm Delane. You may know the brand Kid Super, who've done a lot of work with Puma and Hector Bellerin and others. Now, that doesn't change necessarily the opinion of the shirts, but I think it does help to partly explain some of the thinking. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. I think this is, well, it could potentially fall into the so bad it's good category. I think it is just bad. Obviously, a callback to the old Barnsley shirt, which had similar stars. 89-90. There we go. And somehow it's even crazier. I think having the gradient and this absolutely hilarious US mobile sponsor. Again, it somehow made it even crazier. I think, for me, it's so ridiculous that I think it does actually have enough about it that I would probably put it in the counter tier on novelty factor alone. But don't get me wrong, I don't think this is good. And actually, again, talking briefly about Kid Super, a brand who have been, again, quite involved in football, yet to be really, well, I'm surprised really that we've not seen more of their involvement in match shirts, because I do think that is definitely an area which we might see more of. For example, you see things like when Palace got involved with Adidas and obviously Jordan with Nike. I'm surprised Kid Super hasn't given what seems to be their relatively big profile in the space. I'm surprised they haven't taken more of a venture into it. It's interesting that they've chosen Barnsley of all the teams to do this. So actually, it's funny. I would genuinely put this in this kind of area for the novelty factor. And again, the involvement of Kid Super, whilst it won't mean a lot to most people, I do actually think there's a collectability element to it there. And there's something about the combination with the stars and the sponsor, which I do think, and the grade, it's ridiculous. And it is even crazier than the 90s kit. I'm going to stick it there though. Looks like Morocco. Yeah, it does have a bit of that vibe. If you get a bit of green in there, it could definitely look like that. I believe they actually designed a new alternate crest for the black and gold. Now, the black and gold, obviously, it's complete cliche. The sponsor is still quite funny there. And again, the crest, if you go and check that one out, you'll actually see that it's, I believe, like, a new version of the crest that I think Kid Super designed. Black and gold is a bit, it's overdone at this point. That's not enough to save this one. I'd still put it in this tier because I actually do think, again, there are some interesting elements. But and the away, the stars look really naff here, being in the kind of washed out grey. And the outline sponsor, it's a small thing. You can actually see the Kid Super sleeve sponsor, which is interesting. So I think overall, honestly, if you'd have told me Kid Super, and if you go and check out some of their work, they often use quite interesting kind of pastel colours. If you told me Kid Super had designed a set of kits with Barnsley, I would have been much more interested going into it. The end result does not really resonate there, and I think actually, again, I'll stick the away in the Ice Cube tier. As a set of kits, it's definitely below what you'd hope for, and having Kid Super involved doesn't change that. Yes, there is a novelty factor, a bit of a cult classic factor with the home especially, but yeah, very interesting. Sorry. Certainly, knowing Kitsuba's involvement, it definitely makes it more interesting, but it doesn't change the end result. Andrew, it's awful. Having not been aware of the original, I thought the sponsor would convince them to go All-American. Indeed, what's worse, there is the unwanted central badge on the other two. Yeah, I'd agree that I think the novelty factor of the central badge on the home, fine, but the other two definitely don't need it as well. So I'd agree very much with that decision, or that comment, I should say, Andrew. Schalke's away with Adidas, very, very, very boring. It's interesting, of course, given the severing of their partnership with Gazprom. The team name on the front, but it's in a very boring font, and I'm sure they could have done something a bit more creative. Maybe I'm guessing that's their club font or whatever, typeface, but it's not. It's just looks very boring there, and it looks, I feel like if you're not going to have the sponsor, or at least do something a bit more interesting, look to some of the kind of what MLS teams used to do. Or indeed just in American sports, in baseball and such, you can see NBA, you can see really interesting uses of team names on the front. So this is just basically a bit of a nothing shirt. The Adidas, I will say the Adidas template is consistently helping even quite average designs to at least have a reasonable floor. But there's nothing too exciting about this one, and I would definitely say that. This is an example of Adidas, even with big teams, Schalke obviously being quite a big club. Unlike your Macrons, who tend to give a lot more bespoke treatment to clubs, someone like a Hummel, someone who, will put much more effort into bespoke elements, even if it is just a pattern. This one is sorely lacking details, and again, I think the nail in the coffin for me is the very, very just standard team name on the front, which is something they could have experimented with more. Colours are fine, and again, the templates is a good one. Adidas's current template, compared to like Nike, for example, is streets ahead, but it has to be in the Ice Cube tier. Talking to Gazprom, there they are there, which is funny, but anyway, that's Schalke. Not a big fan of that one. Alfredo saying, right, a la Huelenza, Costa Rican new shirt, Umbre. So we'll continue with the formula for now, Alfredo, which is simply working through Football Shirt Culture's list of new shirts. Shout out to Football Shirt Culture. They're not a sponsor or anything, but I just really like their site, and they do a good job of keeping up to date with the majority of the shirts. That being said, if that shirt isn't on there, what I do say to people, like I said to Bob before with Toronto, at some point we'll in the year we'll do a few shows where we basically fill in some gaps, and even offer up, any shows that you guys want me to rank on the tier list. I'll do that, but we'll stick, just because otherwise we might kind of get bogged down. We'll stick to what we've got here for now, but we'll definitely be open to changes or additions. Andrews, have Schalke ever had a memorable kit? None spring to mind. Yeah, apart from the obvious examples in the 90s, they are very, very, they're kind of the Tottenham home shirt equivalent of kits. Now this from Roma and Norwich. Great that Lotus are continuing on the front sponsor. Honestly, the paneling of this one is a bit odd. I quite like the overall look. I don't mind the darker green. I know Norwich have done this a lot, of course. They just block it like there feels like there's about 3 different shirts here, and the kind of awkward cut-off point here, which reminds you a lot of when the likes of New Balance were doing this, back with Liverpool and other teams. Was that 2018, 2019, whenever it was, that they kind of had this awkward kind of style. And I think just the amount of space around the applications here, I feel like you could have had a much more attractive construction. So as such, whilst I quite like the colours, and again the pattern, we've seen a lot, there's nothing too exciting, but just the neck, the collar as well isn't great. I think this one actually has to go maybe even lower candle. Just a bit clunky from a construction perspective, from a paneling perspective. But colours wise is good, and of course, Norwich do have some fun colours to play with. With Homer, they've been very, very good. Am I right in saying it's pronounced more like Homer than Joma? My Spanish is very bad, so / non-existent. So any of my Spanish viewers, please do correct me if I'm saying that wrong. We'll go with Homer for now. Yeah. Norwich have had much better shirts in recent years. This one's fine, but I think again with a much more like that, just a bit of a clunky construction for me there. Anthony, so I'm looking forward to the Hamburg kits being released. The Mönchengladbach home is nice to have seen from Germany. Yeah, has that been released? I saw some leaks of that, which is quite fun. Obviously, a play on their old shirts. Anderson, wait, that's how you pronounce Homer? Well, I might be completely wrong, Anthony. This is Andrew, and this is why I wanted clarification. And usually we've got at least one or two Spanish speakers in the chat. If they're not here today, then that's okay. So I heard basically a couple of years ago, it was a promo video, I think for an Norwich shirt, and they were saying, it sounded to me at least a bit more like Homer Simpson, that kind of sound. But honestly, don't tell me. I'm not the person to speak to for pronunciation. So take what I say with a pinch of salt, Andrew. Rank your Icarus shirt. Yeah, you know what? I'll stick that one on. I'll make an exception. We will chuck that one on because it is. It's fun. It's fun to do it. I won't. Well, it's funny. If you go and look up the Icarus Cup shirts, I think Urban Pitch did a piece. So guys, if you just check out Urban Pitch, yeah, there's some amazing shit. Like I don't even think, genuinely, as proud as I am of my design that I did for that, I don't even think it's in the top 10 of shirts of that tournament, which is happening. Is it this weekend? Very soon, anyway. Nice. Lecoq Sportif, what happened to them? They were, real risers in the kind of late 10s. Work with the likes of Saint Etienne and Fiorentina. They're kind of fallen a bit behind. This shirt is fine. It's got the asymmetry, which is pretty pleasant. Has a kind of little touch. Feeding to the shorts. And I think it works particularly well given that the Lecoq Sportif logo itself is asymmetric. So, that honestly is fine. It looks to be some sort of shadow stripe potentially. It's a bit underwhelming, but I think it's better again given the kind of the logo. I don't mind this as a look. The sponsor's inoffensive, a bit large, but I mean that's quite a French thing really to have a large sponsor. So that's Lecoq Sportif. Again, we just simply don't have enough Lecoq Sportif shirts in the game, I think, given their not only their heritage, but again, if you look back to kind of, I think it was 2017, maybe it was 2018, both from a feel and design perspective, the shirts were really good then. And I would at the time they were kind of a brand I was hoping would kick on, and they kind of haven't. And it's funny that the football show manufacturer is so competitive. And unless you're someone like a Castor who just buys their way to market representation, you're kind of squabbling over contracts, and it's not easy. I do like this, but it's, again, the standard's quite high, so I don't think we're not going to get carried away. This is something in the middle. I actually would put it around here. And Lecoq Sportif, yeah, they haven't done many shows this year, but what they have done, I've enjoyed. But again, we will move them a bit down. In Spanish, the J sounds like an H. So that was my understanding as well, Buck. Despite, again, my bad track record. Oh, that's the away kit, I should have said. I don't know if I said that. Let's rank the Micros Cup shirt just for a laugh. If you want to see the story behind this one, I've done a thread on Twitter. This thread, go and check that out. This is honestly ridiculous. I basically went all out, tried to create pretty much the craziest shirt I could create. You can see some of my early kind of design, the render. And whilst the colours were slightly different on the finished product, I'm happy that we basically got to keep essentially the craziness of the design with the number on the back. It's a ridiculous shirt. Again, I won't dig into the story too much. I actually do think if and again, it's impossible to rank this impartially. Had this come out, it is a lot to stomach, and I would definitely say it's not for the faint-hearted. But I love it. And again, it's funny. I've not designed many shirts I'm at the start of my career. What I hope will be a career in designing shirts. It might not end up as a career, but if it, regardless, at this point, this is without a doubt the most ridiculous shirt I've made. Or design, I should say. That would be even crazier, being upside down. I'm sticking it in the volcano tier. I mean, again, I can't be objective, can I? But I think I would actually say I prefer the AC Milan shirt, but I'd put it over the Belgium one. Let's stick it here, just for a bit of fun more than anything else. A bit of promo, a bit of shameless promo. This shirt, if you want to get hold of this shirt, guys, this is going to be part of every level of my Patreon, which I will announce in the next week or so. We're going to revamp that. As Phil's Corner gets back to regular videos, I'm going to relaunch the Patreon essentially. It's still been going and people are still using it. And actually, given the state of Twitter and how that's sort of become more and more frustrating to use as a platform, the Slack group that we have with both current and former patrons who are invited to that private Slack group, it's become more and more of an actual place where I think, and people's discourse and stuff, it's no wonder that they're often a bit of a haven from the typical mess that you do see on Twitter at the moment. It is objectively worse than it used to be. But anyway, Nice home shirt. I appreciate that the overall kind of clean, refined style has continued over. And again, a really interesting asymmetric colour, cuff design, sorry. Often with asymmetry, it tends to be just blocks of colour like the away. But to actually have a completely different style, honestly, I actually quite like. And it's something which Lecoq Sportif have done before. They did, again, back in their 2017-ish phase, they did it with a couple of shirts. I remember a Saint Etienne shirt that had a kind of blocked sleeve. You'll show your rules. Indeed, Brooke, indeed. So actually, I do think this is pretty good. It's a bit boring. Sorry. If you're looking for something a bit more crazy, but I do think that the two kits complement each other well, and that detail is a surprising element, the cuff detail, but I actually think it looks pretty good. Whew, sorry. Again, I've been off the streaming game for a little while. I forget how. I honestly don't know how. I say this all the time. I don't know how full-time streamers do it when you're effectively talking to yourself for. Well, if I did it for more than 20 minutes, I start yawning. Anyway, that's an old complaint. I say that every stream. Regular viewers will know that is. I'm always tired. I probably just don't get enough sleep. That's probably the issue. That's the niche shirt. I think when I compare it to the shirts in this tier, yeah, I think it belongs somewhere around here. We will nudge the Lecoq Sportif down a little bit more. This is a very condensed brand word cloud there. But that's the Nice home and away shirts. Not too bad. Now we come to Feyenoord and Castor, who, as I was saying earlier, a brand I was very low on them last year, and I basically thought they expanded too quickly, or too much too soon. Looking at this shirt here, I'm not too sure about the look of the collar there. You see this with half and half shirts often. Well, they try and kind of mirror in some way the colours on the collar, and I actually think I'd rather that was just either just plain or just something like that. There's one too many kind of ideas there. I do like, however, the shadow stripes. it gives that retro feel, but I actually do think that's quite nice, and it does continue all the way on the back, and this is a big thing. This is something which many striped shirts don't do. We've even got shadow stripes on the sleeves. So honestly, again, the collar and cuffs aren't for me, and the sponsor's not a good one. At least it's not too in your face. No, this looks good to me. This actually looks pretty strong, and again, I think given the approach to the shadow stripes, having them on the back, good decisions from Castore. So largely pretty happy with that one. I'd be tempted to nudge this into the flames tier. I think I'll keep it in the high end of the counter tier, but honestly, Castore, they've done some good stuff. I mean, I quite like the Newcastle shirt. You can see that snuck into the flames tier. I think that was one we did off stream actually. But that's there, and I think this one is not far behind it. Honestly, Castore, it's not particularly it's not revolutionary. They have kind of gone a bit more retro across the board, and it is largely a good thing, I would say, at least in terms of the end product. Them doing their own thing, I'm still a bit kind of skeptical of, but certainly tapping into retro and retro aesthetics again with the shadow straps here, I'm broadly a big fan of that. Yes, Brooke, I do. That is, and I said this before. That is the next shirt. Sorry, the next video. So before I relaunched Phil's Corner as kind of bring back the regular episodes, that's the last video to come out before that. So it is. I actually did film a version, and the video didn't turn out okay. And I did that before I went away on holiday, and the timing wasn't good, so I have to refilm it. But it is. Again, I've said this for over a year now, so I apologise for the delay. That is coming, and that will happen before we kick back into the into the first corner. I was going to say season 2. I don't know if you could call it that, but anyway, we started the day talking about Roma, and now we come back to an Adidas shirt, and this time for the Benfica away shirt. Now, my first thought when I saw this was the Olympics, or the Olympic rings. I don't believe it is related to that. I think there's some sort of global story. Regardless, I really like it. The only thing I would say is I think they could have pushed the needle a bit more in terms of using these colours. I would have loved to have seen, for example, maybe like under the 3 stripes. Although this is actually just the aero ready, so we don't get the full heat ready 3 stripes, which is a shame. But this could be so much better, and I'd love to see a little, just tiny elements of those colours. Maybe for example in the hem of the shirt, how cool would it be to have some of the colours, maybe only sparingly, or maybe more colourfully. But it looks great. I really do like this overall style. I appreciate again, this Adidas template is a good one. So even on just their replica level, aero ready level shirts, I'm glad we still get the nice construction, or the kind of hemmed the hem on the side panel, which does honestly make a difference because you get a bit more of the secondary colour. Backnet detail, basic, but it is there, so that is a positive. Honestly, I do think this is really nice. I would say again, I would personally take the Roma shirt over this one, but I do think this is in the Flames tier. Probably in the lower to mid of the Flames tier, but I think this is a very nice shirt. Could be so much nicer, and I think, again, it's not just about the colours, but I would basically want to see more of the colours. I think as well, a bit like when we said with the Roma shirt, because it's only seen here in the aero ready, not heat ready, you don't see it, the look in its full potential, and many clubs just won't get heat ready shirts. And I think Benfica and Roma, I think they might both fall into that category of being huge teams, but they're just not quite at that tier of Adidas shirts. It does look a bit like Atlanta United from a couple of years ago. It does, but that's no bad thing. I quite liked that shirt as well. So this is the Benfica shirt. I personally think it belongs around here. And I will bump around that slightly. It's not without that middle element, it would be much lower. And it is just simple. It's just pinstripes, and there's an argument to be said that the sponsor is still too dominant. But I think this actually speaks more, or my appreciation of the shirt speaks more to how I feel Adidas are doing, and that is that even on their, more kind of standard shirts, they still, I think, are far above the equivalent of a Nike, who even good Nike shirts are often held back by their construction this season. And speaking of, as if on cue, Georgie says, how do you like the Adidas template for the season? So I think I've explained it just now, but for me, better hit than Nike, who went for a facelift to the last seasons. They don't look great on elite teams at all. That's funny. And I promise I didn't see your comment, Georgie, because you've basically just echoed exactly what I've said there. Great minds think alike, my friend. Right, now, who was it? Was it Holstein Kiel? Is that the same pattern? It's funny when you do this and you think, hang on a minute, that looks very similar to the shirt we just looked at. I want to say this is slightly different. I want to say, no, it's the same. So there we go. This answered the question that we had at the start of the stream. This is a standard pattern. Now, it doesn't immediately mean, oh, this is a bad shirt. It's a template. As I said, on this shirt, if it's used for a few teams, I'd say under 6 for me is the kind of sweet spot. I think there's a novelty factor to having West Brom, their third kit, twinned with the Holstein Kiel home shirt. But if we see, again, too many teams using it, you get very bored of it. And I think very quickly it can actually go from, there's the kind of graph goes, if it's bespoke, that's great. And although, albeit a slight dip, it's still not too bad if you've got, under 6 teams. After that, there's a drop. So I think there's a kind of, in this range, so far, I don't recall many other teams having this. Anyway, discussion there about template designs and catalogue designs. We could talk about them more at some point. Let's judge this shirt, though, for what it is. I must say, I'm not in love with the colours. This kind of reminds you of the mint trend, which we saw, a few 3-4 years ago. Albeit a slightly more green shade. It's not kind of as minty as, again, shirts from that trend. But, the sponsor, it's a bit clunky the way that, at least they've tried to kind of colour match it, but I don't see... Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's actually... I was going to say, why do they didn't just outline the text a bit more elegantly, but maybe that actually wouldn't have looked any better. It's fine. And I don't mind the collar and cuffs. I think the monochrome logo, yeah, I don't know. I think basically, I think this comes down to, do you like this base colour? For me, it's not really my go-to. I wouldn't say I love it. And obviously the pattern, well, it's funny. I actually probably would take this over the Holstein Kiel shirt. And I think the pattern does feel more suited to a kind of third kit in this sort of style, which is a bit more kind of throwaway, or a bit more kind of out there. Given that the patterns it's kind of more on the abstract end of the spectrum, so I think this is certainly above the Holstein shirt. I don't want to keep comparing it to that, but given it's the same pattern, I think we can. But I, looking at the candle tier here, which we're in. I think it's more in the middle, and maybe even kind of here. I think that's where I'm landing for it. Puma, again, it's competitive in this region of the tier list. I think what I might do is just do a bit of a shifty. Come on, son. There we go. And we'll move Puma there. This is hardly a science as I juggle around these brand names, but nudging people down a bit. Honestly, might like this one more on pitch. I think if they pair this one with dark shorts, yeah, I could see this one actually looking decent as a whole. Boxes, I like the colours. Yeah, I can definitely see. I can see this appealing. Something honestly for me hasn't resonated as well. Having said that, these colours are even harder to make work, I think, or at least, we see many kits in these colours, but in this example, one too many ideas here. You've got the kind of the pinstripes and the gradient and the sash, the asymmetry with the sleeve. I say that, maybe it's just, I'm not sure exactly how the sleeves are looking there. Oh yeah, so we have got kind of reverse sleeve, I think. But anyway, honestly, yeah, just one too many ideas. I think honestly, with good colours, I'm being very honest on this review. With good colours, maybe it's like a third shirt. I could see this design having some more legs, but as an away shirt, I think I'd generally be more favourable of a shirt that basically committed to the sash, or the pinstripes, or the gradient. Even though I don't love gradient kits, again, I think if it was a third shirt in better colours, I could see this one working. Honestly, I keep saying honestly. You can trust. I'm always honest here, Phil's Corner. Well, I try to be anyway. That's West Brom's away. There we go. Feels appropriate next to PSG there. Similar kind of problem with the gradients aren't inherently bad, but they often just muddy a shirt. Ian says West Brom shirt will look mint green. Will look good if shorts in the same colour as neck cuffs. Exactly. If you pair that shade with the dark navy, that's good. That helps balance it out. I think this sort of shade does feel more like it works better as a secondary colour than the primary colour of a shirt. But it is a third kit, so if it's going to be used, use it on a third kit. Typically, I would say. Oh, sorry. Brooke, yes, did you? 20 minutes to go. We can do this. Come on. We've powered through a few pages. Let's try and do it. At least another page. Did you see the backstory behind Holstein Kiel's third shot? I didn't, book. Yeah, and am I right in saying we did the home and away just now? But maybe that was the third. I didn't see the story though. We come to Bournemouth. Obviously, with the home shirt, like Bournemouth, it's difficult to innovate year on year. I think I don't love, this has got this kind of flappy neckline. There's worse ones of this style, but it's one of my least. That's just one of my least favorite necklines. It's fine, and again, there are actually far worse. Very boring back neck detail, but that is what it is. Obviously, the Daffabet sponsor is a negative. Overall, this looks good. I think it's very black, and probably the balance of the stripes. And I wonder if that red stripe is half the thickness of the black stripe. I think it is, right? And I think that's. I'm just doing the eye test here. That looks to be what it is. I get it. There's kind of method there. It's got the kind of quintessentially Brazilian pinstripes, framing stripes. I still don't know what you'd call that. Fully striped back, big tick for that. I'd be interested to see those pinstripes in white or gold. Maybe that would be a bit too much. I think that might help me like the kit a bit more and help. Say it was in white or gold. I think it might just lighten the kit up a bit. I wonder if that happened at any point during development. I don't know. But if we did that, tied up the neckline and had a better sponsor, I think we'd be onto a winner. As is, I think we're looking more like the kind of Canal tier, but not despite my grievances, my nitpicking. I do think this one deserves to be in the Canal tier, and kind of close to the middle of the Canal tier for me. Again, Umber have done. I've talked them up a lot, even though we've not seen many of their shirts, just because basically I think if we went back a few more pages, we'd see more Umber shirts. They have, honestly, I think they've been doing really good, and I'm happy to put them. Yeah, let's stick them here. That, of course, means we will nudge Umbros down slightly. But yeah, I think they're onto something here with this shirt. And again, the fully shirt back is a big tick. I think generally more teams seem to be doing that. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But there we go. We come to Stoke. Stoke City's away shirt with Macron. Very kind of contemporary design. Unsure as to the story, if there is one. Often kits like this are simply designed just to look interesting. And that's okay. You don't need a story every time, or at least, not every kit has been inspired by something. Despite the betting sponsor, it is fully colour matched with the Macron logo and the crest, so that's good. Honestly, this is fine. The plain back is a big, it's so unnecessary on this. You could easily have a fully patterned back on a white number. So that is a real shame. And despite the cleaner, I don't think every shirt should be a crew neck, don't get me wrong. But it's hard to kind of be too excited by this sort of style of collar, despite, again, the clean neckline. Honestly, this is fine. I think I'm not a shirt like this, which is basically like they've opened the playbook, and as far as I can tell, they've just done something just to look cool. I think with that in mind, you want a bit more. For me, I'd want a bit more kind of intricacy or something about that pattern to go, wow. As is, it feels a bit just kind of. I don't see anything about this which is really separating from the crowd in that sense. We see so many shirts that are just kind of textury, kind of crazy patterns. I guess a bit like my Chris Cup shirt, hey? Which are kind of, again, there's not much to kind of go on there. And the colours of this one are fine, but I would absolutely... and I'm glad it's not just a black and gold shirt, in that sense, but there are better colourways as well. Anyway, that's a long way of saying I think we're looking at another Canal tier shirt, but this one, where am I? Bit off on the Macron logo there. This one is more kind of mid to high Canal tier. Absolutely, falls within kind of Macron's catalogue this year, and again, I think Macron are actually just very good. Yes, I'm not, jumping up and down about this one. Stoke shirts last year were much better. And this one is a bit of a step down from last year, but I actually like it around this region. We will nudge Macron down slightly, but of course it's very congested there. Sorry, catch up on the comments. So on the Holstein Kiel shirt, which Brock mentioned, he goes on to say their third kit is orange and white stripes resembling warning signs at construction sites. Called the construction kit due to ongoing construction on the stadium. Very interesting. Only 1,900 to purchase. Georgie saying, can't wait for the Milan shirt verdict from a fourth shirt in early 2000s to home kit now. Like I said, difficult to innovate on stripes, but a red back criminally undermines core Milan DNA. Yeah, it's funny because by contrast, Inter are absolute sticklers for keeping the straps on the back of their home shirts. For what it's worth, we did rank the Milan shirt already, if you're referring to the home shirt. Honestly, I think that one was a good idea, poorly executed for me. I can't remember what episode it is. There's only a couple of episodes ago. You can go and check out my full review. And on the Stoke, Ian says, what I like with the blue Stoke shirt is the trim reflection of the colours and passing gives it a clean look. Yeah, no, the colour decisions are good on that one. And actually, I think, I'm being a bit harsh with putting it down here. I think you could easily justify it higher in this tier. That is a good decision. I probably shouldn't get too stuck up on how much I don't really like the collar. I'll bump it up slightly. We'll go for that. I think that's not unreasonable. And Driven Back Brock says then when he purchased him, also get a piece of the stadium, like a screw or a piece of ground play. That is a novel way to release your shirt. I like it. Right, we'll try and finish this page, I think, because actually, looking at the time, we won't be able to do another page. But this is we'll see. Hang on. Has anything else been added to the site since the Roma shirt? Yeah, we'll pick up these another time. Let's come to Bolton. Another Macron shirt. Honestly, quite smart. Having the black base allows that crest to really pop in the contrasting white. And I'm a big fan of this kind of subliminal style when you have what looks to be possibly embossed lines on the shirt there. I might be wrong. If it is embossed, that is a big upgrade on a simple print. The sponsor is, I think there's almost a golden rule that you don't want a domain, what do you call it, suffix? I can't remember what the technical term is, a .com or .co.uk, that almost always looks bad on a sponsor. Even well-known sites, I just think it, always to me just looks a bit naff, and it's just not a very nice logo. At least it's in plain white. Those cuffs as well look just a bit too long, as does the neck. But in fact, this is the one thing with Macron, and I often say this with Macron shirts. I like them, but they just sometimes over-engineer their collars. What's that little panel there? That just doesn't look good to me. And I'm being picky. The overall look of the shirt is good, but that just kind of bugs me. Again, the cuffs look a bit. Almost looks like a couple of captain's armbands there. So I think this one, it started off. I could see this maybe even going close to the Flames tier, but it's held back by multiple things. I would still put it in the kind of close to the middle of the counter tier. I think in the middle sounds about right. Couple of classic Macron issues. I say issues. Of course, this whole tier list is my personal preference, and they're not necessarily objectively bad decisions. But if we have a look, let's go down here for the Bolton shirt. We need to fill out this bottom of the tier list. Of course, that being a Macron shirt. Macron, I said at the start of the show, they do actually have a lot of teams, which kind of makes it a bit tricky when you've got so many teams to kind of keep a high standard. I do actually think they do a good job in general. Better than someone like Nike, who again have a huge portfolio, but the lows are very low. Manolios, time to check Greek Super League. Yeah, honestly, I just go on chronological order, but absolutely some Greek shirts over the years, and indeed in modern times have been very good. So apologies that we haven't really covered any today, Manolios, but hopefully we will cover more in future weeks as more gets released. If I don't, there will be shows later in the year when I'll take requests from you guys to fill in some of the gaps that football shirt culture just simply don't list every single shirt. So there will be shirts we can add. Jordan, you plan to attend any top 5 matches? In all honesty, I don't go to many football games. I try to go to at least 1 or 2 Huddersfield Town games because that's where I live and I kind of follow the team, being that they're my local team at the moment, or happened for the last 12 years. I am going to see one of the NFL games at Wembley this year. I'm a big NFL fan. I've considered doing some NFL content actually. But the problem is it's not really related. But maybe we could talk about NFL jerseys. I think I will at some point, just because I honestly do watch more NFL, at least live. I tend to watch more of that than I do football, which is funny, really. I do watch a lot of football as well, but it tends to be more like match of the day and stuff. Whereas I kind of enjoy having NFL on in the background, and that's typically... that's something I've got more. I've been watching for a long time, since kind of the mid noughties. I've followed the Jacksonville Jaguars, but anyway, so I'm going to the Falcons Jags game at Wembley. That's the only ticket I can think that I've got booked in October. But again, we could talk about NFL a long time, but that would be slightly off topic. And Brock saying, I'm with you, Germany like Macron. Really like Macron collars and necklines. Yeah, that's what I usually say myself. Now Portsmouth and Nike, this a bit like that when we talked about the West Brom third shirt and the pattern. I think I might saying this is just a catalogue pattern not one which has been too overused. It's fine, like it, but it honestly does just sort of look like an off-the-shelf shirt. Very little in the way of details, if any details on this one. Sure, the overall look with the red socks is good. That is a good colour combo for the team, but it's just a very average shirt. Honestly, this is the bare minimum in terms of what you'd hope to see. And I might be wrong in saying this is a catalog pattern. If it is bespoke, I should eat my hat in that sense. But yeah, this one is. I think it has to go in the Ice Cube tier. You could possibly say it goes into the bottom of the counter tier, but I think it has to get in the Ice Cube tier just on the account of it being very standard. And it's sadly been the story with I think most of Pompey's shirts with Nike. There's been little in the way of attention to detail. Of course, this is not exclusive to Portsmouth when it comes to in England, English lower leagues or outside of the Premier League, I should say. In England, there aren't many good Nike shirts to write home about, and this certainly falls into this category. I think we'll sneak them in just behind PSG there. It's Portsmouth, a bit underwhelming, unfortunately. Much more interesting is the Ipswich shirt. Indeed, Andrew. Portsmouth are the poster boys of Gen 18 where they are, sadly. Boxing, there any good football shirts in New Zealand to check out when I go in 2 weeks? I need to get one in Phoenix. Yes, you should definitely get one of those. I'm sure they'll have. Well, obviously you'll be there for the World Cup, won't you, Brock? So definitely grab one or two of those. Honestly, the last time I went to New Zealand, when was that? It was before I was really collecting, so it wasn't on my radar. So I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Sadly, next time I go, and I'll hopefully go at some point. I need to bring my wife there and any excuse to go back to New Zealand. Yes, so hopefully next time I go, I will do much more of a football shirt shop. Ipswich, if you can stomach the Ed Sheeran involvement, I don't mind that too much, to be honest. The monochrome crest is quite a lot, but that is just a very attractive pattern. It's got this kind of, it's funny, I often complain about gradients, but one thing which, and this is a very kind of late 80s, early 90s aesthetic, when you had kind of grainy gradients, or gradients that were achieved through grainy patterns, for want of a better, there's probably a more concise way to describe that. This is just far superior of a look, and I actually really like, again, it has that kind of almost like the kind of Holland 88 style, not just because it's orange, but the way you have the way this pattern is constructed. Interesting that you have the plain sleeves and of course the plain back. You'd probably want to see, I think it would look better either having more contrasting sleeves and obviously the pattern on the back. So there's things which could be better, but this is excellent from Umbro. I think, again, 3 stars on the back, that's nice. Honestly, the overall look of this one, I would say, is above average, certainly above average. And I think, it's orange shirts, they're becoming, I think often I quite enjoy. I'm just looking here, you can see a few orange shirts dotted about. It's a colour I often quite like. I would absolutely say this is Flames tier. More kind of lower Flames tier, but I do think, again, despite the very wide sponsor of Ed Sheeran's logo there, it fits into the colours well. This is Umbro doing what they do well, and again, the pattern, it's unashamedly kind of retro vibe, and it is, again, nothing revolutionary, but that's okay. I think this does what it does very well. I think it compares well to the Huddersfield shirt, actually. I think we could easily put it in this gap. Let's go down here. Let's stick it down here. It's good stuff from Umbro, and indeed, as a brand, they've been, we've had a few shirts today, and they will continue to be a storyline of this year. I think they're back in a strong position. Gradient. Why didn't I think of that? I love it. Gradient. Of course it's that. That's it. From now on, Andrew, I'm going to refer to it as a gradient. That's brilliant. Oh dear. Yes. That's. I was trying to think of a concise word. We'll go with that. If I say this out of context or off stream, people will think, do you mean gradient? No, I mean gradient. Brilliant. Love it. It does feel 90s, and it just, honestly, I just think objectively that looks better as a use of a gradient than what you often see. Is it as simple as making it just grainy? I think maybe you could argue that the geometry of it all helps as well, having it kind of more as a repeat pattern. So there's definitely elements which elevate it over similar approaches. This sort of style of gradient, or gradient, I should say. And we finally we'll end today with the home shirt. This one, I think, is still pretty good, not as good as the away. And the pattern again is a kind of retro vibe, different to the gradient from before. Much more of a kind of textural. It looks like it might even be embossed. I'm not sure. It might just be a kind of shadow, kind of like a shadow subliminal pattern. It has a retro vibe. Honestly, I quite like this one as an overall kind of contrast. In some ways it's still quite retro, but it does have distinct elements compared to the away. As a combo, it's pretty strong. I do think, again, I would definitely say the away, and it's often the case with teams. You tend to gravitate more to the aways because they tend to be a bit more out there, as if you're a neutral. But I think this is a good home shirt. I'm not like the blocking or the kind of construction of the white panel there. I don't mind that at all. I think that generally isn't a bad aesthetic. It looks better in some pictures. Actually, on the players, I think it looks pretty strong. And a little flash of red. Honestly, I think chuck in a couple of details on this one. There are the 3 stars, so that's fine. And have a pattern back, I think we'd be looking at another Flames tier. As is, it's a high count of me. And this is a good combo. I'm glad we ended on a couple of Umbro kits, because I do think, again, this isn't an exception to the rule. Umbro are doing good stuff. Umbro are generally a manufacturer to look out for this year, and there is a buzz in the community for a reason. I think they are. Again, we didn't even cover half of what I wanted to really to truly represent what they're doing this year. I'm just really high on what they're doing, so glad we could end on that. And I do think this fits nicely in this kind of region. We'll just bump it down slightly, but there we go, guys. That is our latest update to the whole wall. That was a good stream. Despite the bad start, we powered through. I will just add down to Ipswich. I'm trying to fill in gaps, so I need to kind of make notes as I go through. Nothing. Apart, I was going to say nothing changed about here. We had a Maker's Cup shirt, but that's that aside. There were some good shirts, and I think Bradford's was a highlight for sure. But other good efforts. Ipswich that we just talked about, very, very strong. Just looking through here, there was a lot kind of that snuck into the Flames tier, but the list is beginning to fill out. I think typically what we're going to see more and more as the months go on, as the weeks go on, there's going to be more and more congestion in this tier, and you can see like that's I've said this before, the kind of average line. Where I would say the kind of like the average usually is around here. So like an average shirt I would expect to be in this sort of tier. Maybe a bit higher, but it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if that's going to happen when all is said and done. If it's a particularly good year, it might be more like this. But that's our tier list for today. Thank you for joining. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for bearing with me with the technical difficulties. We took a while to get going. I was genuinely sat there. Thanks to Eric again for calling out that my mic wasn't on, despite me thinking it was. We are going to be back tonight, guys. So a special double stream tonight on Whatnot. If you've not joined on Whatnot, maybe you're one of the YouTube regulars. Don't worry, we're still going to be here on YouTube going forward. But Whatnot is a platform which I've enjoyed, and I'm looking at, after this kind of trial period, I'm looking at maybe doing like a monthly stream and Whatnot where I just sell shirts, and if I can partner with a couple of stores that I know to basically get more stock, that can be more of a kind of full show. At the moment, I'm just auctioning off little bits of my personal collection. Tonight, we're auctioning off a one-of-one custom Dortmund shirt. This is something which was gifted to me by Prane Paris, the fashion brand, who were doing a lot of stuff around 5 years ago. They've been a bit quieter recently, but anyway. Tonight's What Not Stream is all about leisure wear, fashion and football and that sort of thing. So there's art, football stuff, and there's some good items, just a few items. But anyway, that's all details are on the Twitter, on my Twitter. But thank you. Any final questions, stick them in the chat. But I really enjoyed the engagement and the content in the chat today. There's been some great questions. I do these streams for you guys, and I get a lot out of just chatting with you. So thank you to some familiar faces, some new faces. Please subscribe if you are new, and of course if you do that, you'll know when I go live in future. And as I said at the start of the stream, but I'll just reiterate, we are going to be going back to regular Phil's Corner episodes. I'm going to commit to weekly episodes of Phil's Corner, the kind of magazine style, classic style. We'll do Q&As, topical stuff, talking about just collecting tips. That'll be alongside the what we're doing here, the Hot Wall, also the eBay streams. So it's been relatively quiet over the last year, even 2 years maybe. I can't remember when it was that we started to slow down slightly, but we're coming back. Thank you, Marcos. This is a great stream as always. Appreciate it, my friend. Guys, I've really enjoyed this afternoon. Don't forget, as I say, to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this as much as I did. And I'll speak to you very soon, if not tonight on Whatnot. Brock, a question here saying, can you tell me again what the bags are that you use for your shirts? I use, I believe, I can't remember the name now. I think I just went on Amazon and searched like Ziploc bag or something. Let me find the ones, because I could find out. It's not Ziploc. What are they called? Again, I'm literally going to go on my Amazon history, and I'll make sure I don't show you my password. Right, let me have a look. Past year, because again, I do get this question a lot. It would have been, when did I last order them? If you bear with me, Brock, I'll find that for you. Gosh, I realise I do actually get a lot of stuff from Amazon. I definitely make use of my Amazon Prime subscription, that's for sure. I'm currently going through all the orders that I made in a year, and I'm still going. There's a Roma shirt I bought. We're still going. Maybe it was before. This is 2021. I thought that was the last time. Anyway, I will find it for you. I promise. Still looking. Where the heck is it? Must have been 2020 then. Or maybe it was. Anyway. Again, apologies. Oh man. And there's 60 orders in 2020. We're getting there. We must be close. I genuinely can't remember the name of it. It's completely escaped me. And we're still trying to find it. Here we go. Finally. It was these ones. As you can see, purchased 3 times. Now there are definitely other ones you can get. These aren't particularly cheap. They come out. I mean, I'm sure they were cheaper than this, to be fair. I think they've gone up since I bought them in 2020. But this, with an A3 size, you easily fit in the shirt, and you can, if you got a name set, it will fit. And that, I honestly just quite like this method for storing my shirts that I don't wear often. But again, they're not cheap, so it's more than £1 a bag. I think from memory they were actually a bit cheaper, and you probably can get cheaper brands. But anyway, that's the ones. Snowpake, the zipper bags. It's spelled ZIPPA. That's what you're looking for. Thank you, Matthew. Thanks for stopping by, and thanks for your comments throughout today. Look forward to hanging out next time as well, mate. And Ian saying some cracking non-league shirts this season. A couple of Cabba shirts catch my eye. Bromley away and Pollock away. I really like the whole City shirt as well, which is completely kind of what you'd expect, but it looks good. And excited for Kappa and Hull going forward. Anyway, guys, thanks again. If you've got any more questions, feel free to DM me on Twitter. I will occasionally answer them. I tend to respond much quicker to my Patreon supporters, which is part of the benefit of Patreon, on Slack. But anyway, and I'll talk more about Patreon in the coming weeks because we are going to be relaunching that. But please do feel free, I should say, to speak to me and ask me any questions. Always happy to help. See you very soon. I'll leave us with the outro screen. Take care, and look forward to talking more about football shirts with you very, very soon. All the best.